Imagine this. Niccolò Machiavelli, the man who wrote the definitive manual on power 500 years ago, wakes up in January 2026. He opens his eyes. He sees everyone glued to screens, algorithms tracking every click, cameras on every corner. And you know what the first thing he'd say would be? It wouldn't be, "My God, what a terrifying world." It would be something more like, "Perfect. It's never been so easy to predict idiots." Because here's the uncomfortable truth. While you're worried about whether artificial intelligence is going to dominate you, you've already been hacked. Not by machines, but by your own predictability. Every time you react to clickbait, every time you get angry on social media, every time you desperately seek validation, you're confirming a pattern, and those who understand these patterns are using you as an instrument. In a world where everyone's screaming to be seen, the invisible person is the one holding the knife. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the 13 rules that Machiavelli would update for our era of total digital surveillance. Some are so dark I hesitated to include them. But if you want to stop being a predictable statistic and become someone no one can decipher or manipulate, you need to hear every word. Because what's coming isn't theory. It's the survival manual for a world that turned your attention into currency and your predictability into weakness. Let's start with the foundation of everything. If you're predictable, you've already lost, no matter how smart you are. Rule 1. The algorithmic ghost. Starve the prediction. Here's the problem. Nobody wants to admit. Algorithms know you better than you know yourself. Not because they're magical, but because you're boring. You react to the same type of content, get angry at the same things, buy in the same patterns. You're like a Swiss watch, precise, predictable, dead. The solution isn't to disconnect from the internet like a paranoid hermit. That's weakness disguised as principles. The real play is to contaminate your pattern. Become statistical noise. How? Interact with content you hate. Buy things you don't need and return them. Like gardening videos if you normally watch finance. Search for vegan recipes if you're a carnivore. Socially, apply the same principle. Refuse to be put in an ideological box. If you're politically right-wing, quote Marx in your conversations. If you're left-wing, defend free market arguments. It's not about not having convictions. It's about no one being able to write your personal algorithm. Because when people can't categorize you, they waste energy trying to figure you out while you move freely in the shadows. Rule 2. The black box cult. Information as symmetry. This rule is simple but brutal. Information is power, and whoever shares everything loses all their power. Look around you. People vomit their entire life on social media. What they eat for breakfast, where they are, what they think, what they feel. They're open books, and open books are easy to read and manipulate. You're going to do the opposite. Become a black box. You absorb information, but you don't transmit. When they ask you personal questions, your answers are intentionally vague and ambiguous. Don't give juicy details. Don't share your plans. Don't reveal your weaknesses or your real strengths. Here's the dark psychology behind this. When you keep silent, people project their own fantasies and fears onto you. They imagine you smarter, more dangerous, more connected than you really are. They're building a myth about you in their own heads. And the best part is, you don't have to do anything, just let them. Never correct the statue they're building in their imagination. That fear, that uncertainty, is your advantage. Now, being invisible is fine, but it's useless if people can still read your emotions like an open book, because your reactions betray you more than your words, and that's where the next rules come in. Rule 3. Apathy as a weapon, the grey rock principle. We live in the outrage economy. Your rage, your frustration, your anxiety are products being sold. Every time you lose emotional control, someone else is cashing in, whether it's the platform increasing your engagement or the person who provoked you to feel powerful. There's a technique called the grey rock method. It was originally designed to deal with narcissists. The idea is to become as boring and inert as a grey rock so the narcissist loses interest and leaves you alone. But I'm going to teach you to turn this into an offensive weapon. When someone tries to provoke you, insult you, or emotionally manipulate you, this is what you do. Don't defend yourself. Don't counterattack. Look them directly in the eyes. Maintain eye contact 3 seconds longer than normal without blinking, and then simply return to what you were doing without a word, without explanation, without emotion. Why does this destroy them psychologically? Because they need your reaction to validate their existence. Your anger confirms to them that they have power over you. Your silence erases them. It's as if they don't exist, and that drives them crazy in a way no insult could achieve. Your indifference is the most lethal weapon you have. Rule 4. Artificial empathy, the sniper's smile. Now, here comes a critical distinction most people don't understand. There are 2 types of empathy. Emotional empathy is when you feel what others feel. You catch their emotions. Cognitive empathy is when you understand what others feel, but you don't catch it. It's like a surgeon. He understands your pain with clinical precision, but he doesn't start crying with you, because then he couldn't operate on you. Masters of manipulation are experts in cognitive empathy. They read your emotions like data on a screen. They identify exactly what you need to hear, what fear dominates you, what secret desire consumes you, and then they give you exactly that. Not because they care about you, but because that disables your defenses. Think of it like a sniper. Empathy is the telescope that allows you to identify the target clearly. You see the vulnerability, the exact weak point, and then you say the precise words that completely disarm the person. They feel that finally someone understands them. They lower their guard, and that's when you have total control. I'm not saying be a psychopath without feelings. I'm saying learn to separate understanding from emotional contagion. Understand people deeply, but never let their emotional storms drag you down. Rule 5. The dopamine withdrawal, timing control. People are addicted to instant gratification. Messages read immediately, responses in seconds, constant attention. But here's the secret. Timing isn't money, timing is dopamine. And whoever controls the dopamine controls the relationship. Don't respond according to their schedule. Don't be immediately available. Let time pass between messages. When they look for you urgently, respond when you decide, not when they demand. This isn't being rude for the sake of being rude. It's strategic. What happens in the other person's brain? First, anxiety. Why isn't he responding? Did I do something wrong? Is he angry? Then, obsessive curiosity. They start checking their phone compulsively, waiting for your response. And when you finally respond, you give them such a strong dopamine hit, it's almost addictive. Without realizing it, you're training them like Pavlov trained his dogs. Your attention becomes the reward they crave, not the right they assume. And that completely changes the power dynamic. They start adapting to your rhythm instead of you to theirs. Good. You already know how to control your reactions and timing. But now you need to control something even more powerful, how they perceive you. Because perception is reality, and if you don't build your own image, others will build it for you. Rule 6. The synthetic mirror. Everyone is narcissistic. Everyone is narcissistic on some level. Not necessarily in the clinical sense, but everyone wants to be seen, validated, admired. Everyone wants an audience that confirms they're special. And that's where most people make the fatal mistake. They try to impress others by talking about themselves. The master does the opposite. He becomes the perfect mirror that reflects the idolized version of the other person. When they talk, you listen with almost disturbing attention. You ask questions that make them look brilliant. You allow them to expand, talking about their achievements, their genius, their opinions. What happens? They become addicted not to you as a person, but to the feeling you give them. It's like a drug. After talking to you, they feel smarter, more important, more understood, and they'll seek to repeat that sensation over and over. But here's the dark trick. While they're in love with their reflection in the mirror you're holding, you're collecting data. Everything they say reveals their insecurities, their fears, their ambitions, their blind spots. Information you can use later when you need it. They think they're having a conversation. You're conducting an elegant interrogation. Rule 7. The calculated glitch. Imperfection as a weapon. Have you seen those AI-generated images that are almost perfect, but there's something that feels weird? The skin too smooth, the eyes too symmetrical, the lighting too ideal. Your brain detects something's wrong. You distrust without knowing exactly why. That's called the uncanny valley. People work the same way. If you seem too perfect, too polished, too in control, you activate subconscious alarms. People think, this guy is hiding something. He's not real. He's not trustworthy. So what's the solution? You create a calculated flaw, a small, harmless, visible imperfection that makes you seem human. Maybe you're disastrous with technology. Maybe you spill coffee frequently. Maybe you're terrible at remembering names. The important thing is that it's minor, controllable, and totally strategic. What do you achieve with this? 2 things. First, people feel superior in that specific area, which makes them feel comfortable and lower their guard. Second, they assume you're authentic. They think, if he admits this weakness, then the rest must be real. They're not considering that weakness was designed specifically to generate that reaction. While they're focused on your clumsiness with Excel, they don't notice you're 3 steps ahead in everything that really matters. Rule 8. Reality gaslighting, owner of the frame. This is probably the darkest rule of all, so listen carefully. Objective truth exists, but social truth is the story that won. People don't remember facts, they remember emotions, they remember narratives, and whoever controls the narrative controls perceived reality. When you make a mistake or fail at something, never accept it as failure. Immediately reframe it as a strategic decision. You didn't fail to get the job. You decided it wasn't aligned with your vision. You didn't lose the argument. You chose to withdraw because it wasn't worth your energy. The extreme confidence with which you present this version makes people doubt their own memory before doubting you. This has a name. Frame control. It's the ability to define the terms of any situation. A simple example. If someone criticizes you aggressively and you respond by desperately defending yourself, you accepted their frame that you're the accused in a trial. But if you respond with calm curiosity, asking why they're so upset, you change the frame. Now they're the emotional problem, not you, the guilty party. Serious warning. This can cross the line into real psychological abuse if used against vulnerable people or in intimate personal relationships. I'm teaching you this so you recognize it when they use it against you, and so you know how to defend yourself in competitive environments, not so you psychologically torture your partner or friends. There's a difference between war and cruelty. Now you master perception, but there are moments when you need something unpleasant to happen. Someone has to be eliminated, a competitor has to fall. And here comes the golden rule: never be the one holding the weapon. Rule 9. Outsource the dirty work. The invisible hand. Digital fingerprints don't erase. Emails remain saved. Messages are recorded. In 2026, if you're the one who directly destroys someone, the evidence will remain forever. So how do you eliminate obstacles without getting your hands dirty? You never hold the knife directly. Instead, you plant the seed of doubt. You ask the innocent question at the precise moment. Hey, is it normal for Juan to present exactly the same project I heard Maria was developing? You don't accuse. You just plant curiosity. You let office politics do the rest of the work. Or you do something more subtle. You share true but selective information with the right person. You tell Pedro, who you know is a gossip, something technically true about Andres. You don't need to lie. You just need to know that Pedro will circulate that information in a way that makes Andre end up looking bad without anyone knowing you started the chain. The dark beauty of this is that when your enemy finally falls, you're the one there to offer consolation and support. You're the clean survivor, the compassionate friend. No one can prove you had anything to do with it, but you create a subconscious reputation. Bad things happen to people around you if they make you their enemy, and that generates a very particular type of fear that protects you without you having to do anything directly. Rule 10. The necessary monster. Unification through fear. Love is nice in theory, but fear builds tribes much faster. When people face a common threat, they stop fighting each other and unite. And that's where you come in. Identify, or if necessary, construct a common enemy. It can be an external competitor. It can be an unjust system. It can be an opposing ideology. It doesn't matter what it is. What's important is that everyone in your group perceives it as an existential threat. What happens when you do this correctly? People stop questioning your decisions because they're too busy focusing on the enemy you pointed out. They become tribal. They see you as the protector, the leader who keeps them safe from the monster. And here's the crucial part. When people are afraid, they don't carefully examine their leader's flaws. They need to believe you're in control because the alternative is chaos. This doesn't mean inventing false threats. It means magnifying real threats or redirecting attention to them at the strategic moment. It's the oldest tactic of power, and it keeps working because it's wired into our tribal psychology. We're almost at the end, but the last 3 rules are the most brutal. They're the ones that separate those who play the game from those who completely dominate it, and one of them will probably make you uncomfortable. But if you've made it this far, you already know that truth hurts more than comforting lies. Rule 11. The kiss of Judas. Praise before crushing. Showing open hostility is strategic stupidity. You give your enemy time to prepare, build defenses, seek allies. The master does exactly the opposite. If you need to eliminate someone, you treat them better than ever right before the final blow. You praise them publicly. You make them feel safe, valued, even loved. They lower all their defenses because they believe they're on your side. And then, when you execute the final move, it's completely unexpected and devastating. It's not a wound, it's total elimination. Here's the part people don't understand. This isn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. It's efficiency. Real cruelty is wounding someone, but leaving them alive enough to seek revenge. If you're going to act against someone, it must be definitive, quick, and without opportunity for recovery. Not out of sadism, but because half measures only create enemies who dedicate the rest of their lives to destroying you. Machiavelli said it 500 years ago. It's better to be feared than loved, but you must never be hated. Hatred creates revenge. Fear creates cautious respect. And the only way to avoid hatred when you eliminate someone is that they never see the blow coming. Rule 12. The chameleon skin, death to fixed identity. Be yourself is probably the worst advice that exists. It turns you into something rigid and predictable, and what's rigid breaks under pressure. True survival requires total fluidity. Kill your fixed identity. In different contexts, you're different people. In a boardroom, you're the serious analytical strategist. At a casual dinner, you're the one making everyone laugh. With academics, you quote philosophy and theory. With workers, you speak directly without intellectual ornaments. It's not falseness, it's intelligent adaptation. Your opinions, your loyalties, even your values can change when they stop serving you. This sounds horrible to people who believe in absolute principles. But here's the brutal reality. The world is full of graves of people who died defending sinking ships. Loyalty to a lost cause isn't honor, it's suicide disguised as virtue. The most flexible survives. Observe which direction the wind blows and adjust your sails. Don't cling to identities, groups, or beliefs out of pride. When something stops working, you release it without drama or sentimentalism. You're water, not rock, and water always finds the way. Rule 13. The immoral result. The end justifies the means. And we arrive at the final rule, the one that summarizes everything. The world judges results, not intentions. Nobody asks how you got there. They only see where you're standing. Conventional morality was invented by the powerful to control the weak. They tell you, play fair, follow the rules, be honest. Meanwhile, they do whatever is necessary to win and then rewrite the rules in their favor. The difference between the winner and the loser is the difference between doing what's necessary and doing what's polite. This doesn't mean you go around destroying innocent people for no reason. It means that when your survival, your ascent, or your protection are at stake, don't paralyze yourself with ethical debates your competitors aren't having. They've already made the decision. They're acting, and while you debate whether it's right to defend yourself forcefully, they've already eliminated you. You can't be both saint and prince at the same time. If you choose to be a saint, prepare to be a martyr. If you choose to be a prince, prepare to make decisions that ordinary people will never understand. The question isn't whether this is fair. The question is, do you want to survive and prosper, or do you want them to write nicely about you after you lose?